The Suliban were known and feared as the deadliest warrior species in the galaxy, feared by all except the fearless humans of Earth. When Philip Wright, an elite human special forces soldier, marched into the ornate Galactic Council chamber on the space station orbiting humanity's homeworld, anxious whispers rippled through the crowd of alien dignitaries. The insectoid ambassador Kalar, carapace shimmering emerald under the chamber lights, stepped forward to address the rugged human directly. "Soldier Wright, the Suliban have violated the peace accords. These bloodthirsty marauders now pillage defenseless planets with impunity," Kalar said gravely, mandibles clicking. A floating star map materialized, highlighting a dozen besieged systems glowing crimson. "You must infiltrate their capital stronghold, assassinate Warlord Zaran, cripple their command structure, do so covertly, without provoking open war." Philip scoffed. "Then dispatch your own damn armies. Why send a single human to beard the lion?" "Our forces already tried, and failed," Kalar admitted bitterly. "The Suliban are too strong, too savage, but you Terrans have earned a reputation for achieving the unachievable. Your kind vanquished Suliban incursions before, when their dreadnoughts first smashed into your solar system. The Council believes only humanity can triumph now, where the rest of us faltered." Philip paused, contemplating the daunting operation. He envisioned helpless populations enslaved, thriving biospheres scorched to cinder. If this expansionist Suliban campaign went unchecked, billions would suffer under the cruel Suliban yoke, unless Philip brought the warlord to heel. Humanity alone shouldered this burden. Finally he nodded firmly. "I need a team of Terran Tier 1 operators, access to your most potent arms and ordnance, plus a fast stealth frigate outfitted for deep strike. If we're to slay the Serpent, best we bring a big goddamn knife." Philip wasted no time recruiting a top-tier squad for the high-stakes operation. His first pick was Jack Bulldog Briggs, an old war buddy and grizzled Marine vet with serious chops, handling crew-served guns and heavy ordnance. Next came Akira Sato, a sharp young engineer from Osaka who could hack any system or craft any widget. Finally, he tapped Lena Kowalski, a stone-cold Polish sniper who drilled targets at 2 clicks. The Tier 1 Dream Team assembled in the station's main hangar deck, gearing up alongside their slick new ride, a bleeding-edge Void Ghost stealth frigate, fresh from the Galactic Council's classified skunk works. Philip gathered the crew in the bay for a final briefing. "Listen up. This isn't a straight-up slugfest. We're not flying in, dick-swinging, spraying lead and plasma. Gotta play it slick, quick and tight," Philip said, pacing before them. "These Suliban fucks are prepped for a massive frontal assault, not a precision strike from a small band of pipe hitters. That's how we'll blindside 'em." Lena racked the slide on her rifle. Bulldog cracked his knuckles. Akira whistled appreciatively as he clambered aboard the sleek frigate, scoping out its cutting-edge control suites and armaments. "Hot damn, look at this beast! I'll make her dance, sir," he called, plopping into the pilot's crash couch. As the vessel knifed through warp space towards the Suliban homeworld, the operators reviewed fresh Council intel on their target. Philip scanned the holo displays intently. "Zaran's one crafty son of a bitch. Bastard played the long game, uniting all the scattered Suliban tribes and clans under his banner," he mused. "Ruthless megalomaniac, too. Commands the fanatical loyalty of millions. His personal guard, these shadow blade sycophants, are supposed to be top-notch killers. Getting to him won't be a cakewalk." Bulldog grunted. "Shit, what high-value target ever came easy? We'll put that mad dog down, no sweat." Philip nodded. "Damn straight. We'll infiltrate his command citadel via this underground access tunnel the Council's moles ID'd. Once we're inside, we hit 'em where it hurts. Knock out comms, sabotage defenses, sow chaos in the ranks. That'll buy us a window to punch through to Zaran's inner sanctum and ventilate the prick." As the strike frigate dropped out of warp on the fringe of Suliban space, Philip rallied the team one last time over the ship-wide circuit. "Eyes up, Terrans. We're not just fighting for our blue marble, we're fighting for our rep, for our species standing in this fucked-up universe. Time to remind these ET bastards what good old human grit and guts can do. Let's show 'em how we get shit done back in Sol, hurrah!" "Hurrah!" the team barked as one. Locked, cocked, and ready to rock, the dauntless humans readied themselves for a balls-out hell ride into the very bowels of the enemy stronghold. The fate of worlds hinged on this desperate black op. The Void Ghost frigate punched through the upper cloud decks of the Suliban homeworld, its reflective hull shimmering like a mirage against the amber skies. Philip and his crew prepped for planetfall, methodically checking ammo, armor seals, and other critical gear. Their bleeding-edge stealth suits hummed with power, the chameleon outer weave already adapting to match the muted tones of the ship's cargo bay. Philip hefted his plasma carbine, eyes hard as flint. "All right, team, look sharp and stay tight on the infill. Move fast, hit hard, no sound. Time to get to work." The Ghost came in low and fast, engines dampened to a whisper. It settled into a textbook combat landing at the mouth of the target ingress tunnel, kicking up clouds of ruddy dust. The bay doors snapped open, and the Terran operators streamed out into the harsh actinic sunlight of the Suliban world, fanning out in tactical formation. Akira's fingers danced across his wrist display, infiltrating the Suliban sensor nets through the ship's uplink. "Surveillance grid spoofed. We're running silent. They can't see us, boss." "Copy that," Philip replied, his voice toneless and professional over the encrypted comm channel. "Proceed to the tunnel mouth and prepare for subterranean infiltration." The humans activated their ID friend or foe beacons and melted into their surroundings, their silhouettes growing indistinct and hazy, blending with the rusty landscape. Philip took point as they approached the yawning tunnel entrance, halting the team at the threshold with a raised fist. "Kowalski, get up front and scout our route. Briggs, cover our 6 and watch for hostile contact." Lena nodded curtly, unslung her marksman rifle, and pushed past Philip into the tunnel, her footsteps silent on the loose shale. Her night vision clicked on, painting her surroundings an eerie electric green. The rest of the team fell into single file behind her, moving at combat pace, carbines at low ready. Nothing stirred in the sepulchral gloom, only the scrape of boots on rock and the whisper of recycled air through rebreathers. Suddenly a harsh, guttural shout rang out, distorted and echoing crazily off the stone. The clatter of armored feet pounded towards them, a Suliban patrol, armed and hot. Lena's rifle snapped up, sighting through her nightscope, finger caressing the trigger. "Contact front!" "Cover and conceal!" Philip barked, already moving to the tunnel wall, his suit adjusting to match the mottled rock. The team followed suit with trained precision, blending with the stone, playing statue. All except Bulldog. The big Marine let out a throaty roar, the kind of primal sound that hits you in the gut and turns your knees to water. "Come get some, you scaly fucks!" He charged towards the glinting shapes of the Suliban squad, finger mashing his trigger, hosing the tunnel with blistering plasma fire. The superheated bolts slagged stone and cooked alien flesh, casting twisting shadows on the walls. The Suliban returned fire immediately, their own weapons spitting back lances of deadly light. The fusillade sizzled past the advancing human, pocking and scarring the rock around him. He laughed like a devil, teeth bared in a feral grin. Philip cursed sulphurously over the comm, the op already blown to hell. "Sato, jam their fucking comms now. Kowalski, drop the bastards. Briggs, you asshole, get the fuck back here." Akira's hands flew across his wristpad, remotely seizing control of the local Suliban battle net and slamming it with a blizzard of electronic chaff. "Comms interdicted, sir. They're cut off." Lena was already moving, flowing from cover to cover, her rifle hugging her shoulder. She sighted, fired, resighted, reacquired in a lightning-fast dance, Suliban falling with holes blown clean through their helmets. Bulldog reached the enemy squad and bulled into them, a rampaging Terran juggernaut. He swung his carbine like a club, caving in skulls, while his other hand found his monomolecular combat knife. He slashed and hacked and tore, his augmented genetics making him more than a match for the Suliban in close quarters. Philip waded into the melee right behind him, moving like a hunting cat, his own blade flickering and biting, weaving a crimson ruin through their adversaries. Enhanced muscles drove the razor edge through armored carapace and bone effortlessly, faster than the eye could track. In moments it was over. The Suliban patrol lay broken and twitching on the tunnel floor, their ichor pooling darkly in the cracks between the stones. Bulldog stood amidst the abattoir, his armor splashed gory, his chest heaving with exertion. Philip rounded on him, teeth clenched, jabbing a finger into the larger man's chest. "You stupid son of a bitch, you just fucked us. That was our one shot at getting the drop on these pricks, and you just had to whip out your dick and wave it around." Philip bit back another curse, the muscles jumping in his jaw. He looked to Akira. How long before they figure out their guys went dark? The engineer grimaced, his slanted eyes worried. "I'd say we've got maybe 5 minutes before they notice the dead air and missed check-ins. 10 if we're lucky. After that, this whole place will be lit up like a Christmas tree." Philip took a steadying breath, the cogs turning behind his eyes. "Right. New plan, we go in hard and fast, no more skulking. Sato, can you get into their systems, fuck with their defenses? We need a diversion so we can get to the command center and ventilate that warlord prick." Akira nodded sharply, already tapping at his wrist display. "I can do you one better, sir. Give me 30 seconds and I'll trip a cascade failure in their main power grid. Overloads, fires, explosions, the whole shebang. That'll give the bastards something else to worry about besides us." A savage grin split Philip's face. "I like your style, kid, do it. We'll ride the wave of chaos right to Zaren's front door. Kowalski, Briggs, prep for violence of action. Time to give these alien fucks a lesson in Human Warfare 101. Move out." Philip, Bulldog, Lena, and Akira burst from the tunnel mouth into a maelstrom of fire and bedlam. The once proud Suliban capital city burned, rocked by devastating explosions as panicked civilians fled in all directions. Bulldog whooped with savage glee at the apocalyptic scene. Philip's gut clenched at the scale of collateral damage, but steeled himself. The mission eclipsed all. The team sprinted down rubble-choked streets toward the looming command citadel at the city's heart, its stark lines and angular geometries untouched by the chaos. Suliban troopers swarmed like angry ants, attempting to quell the anarchy and root out the saboteurs. The diversion bought precious time, but their window rapidly closed. Materializing from the smoke, a cadre of shadow blades blocked their path, midnight armor drinking in the ruddy firelight. Zaren's hand-picked Praetorians, fanatically loyal, lethally skilled. Monomolecular blades ignited with angry hums, promising dismemberment. Bulldog answered with a bellow of pure bloodlust, bulling into the shadow blade line like a human battering ram. Armor clashed and rent, the Marine holding his own through sheer ferocity and gene-boosted brawn. Lena slid to one knee, sighting through her rifle's oracle scope. With machine-like precision, she put pinpricks of plasma into eye lenses, neck seals, and armpit gaps. Black figures dropped. Philip and Akira pushed forward, vibroblades and pulsifiers scything a path through the press of shadow blades and lesser Suliban. They waded through the melee, dead foes piling at their feet. At last the citadel gates reared before them, and a wall of armored muscle. Night hunters, Zaren's gene-forged walking tanks, towering brutes encased in nigh-impenetrable exoshells, hefting plasma cannons that could slag a frigate. Philip's eyes flicked left and right, searching for another way. There was none, only through, with speed and audacity. He keyed Akira's private comm, his voice preternaturally calm. "Sato, I need those gates open 10 minutes ago. We'll keep the big bastards entertained." The engineer flashed a tight grin, hands already flying across his deck. "Then I'd best not dawdle, sir." Philip raised his voice to a bark. "Kowalski, Briggs, suppressing fire now." He charged directly at the night hunters, an ant against elephants, his blade held low and hungry. Lena and Bulldog opened up, saturating the night hunters with plasma bolts and hypersonic flechettes. The salvo scarcely scratched their paint, but it bought Philip a half-second's respite. He dove between the giant's pillar legs, hamstringing one's knee joint with a wild slash. It stumbled, servos groaning. The other night hunters wheeled about, struggling to draw bead on the lone human dancing between them. Their cannons belched sun-bright streams of nuclear fire, scouring black wounds across the plaza. Philip jinked and juked, feeling the hammer blows of near misses. Bulldog and Lena pressed the assault, strafing and circle-strafing, desperate to keep the heat off Philip. It was a losing game. For each smoking hole they gouged, The night hunters shrugged off a dozen. The monsters closed on Philip, intent on crushing him like a bothersome insect. "Sato!" Philip roared over the comm, rolling beneath a fist like a wrecking ball. "Gates, now!" "Almost there," Akira panted, his voice shot through with tension. "Bypassing final layer, and—" A deep, resonant boom shook the plaza. The citadel gates juddered, then peeled open with a tortured shriek of ceramisteel. And every turret, drone, and defense battery on the battlements swiveled inward, their muzzles winking like the eyes of dragons. The night hunters had an instant to glance up in dawning comprehension before the citadel opened up on them, its own guns ravening with lethal friendly fire. Gouts of blinding plasma chewed through the night hunters' armor like acid through paper. Colossal figures came apart in showers of molten spray. "Go, move!" Philip yelled, already sprinting for the open gates. Bulldog, Lena, and Akira fell in behind him, lungs pumping and hearts pounding. They leapt over the twitching ruin of the night hunters and into the citadel's cavernous foyer. Alarms shrieked and emergency lights flashed baleful crimson. The belly of the beast. Philip paused a moment, getting his bearings, fixing the mental image of Zaran's smirking face. The alien warlord waited somewhere above, cloaked in arrogance, assured of his own invulnerability. "Time to educate the bastard," Philip growled, all fatigue banished by a surge of icy resolve. "Form up and move out. This ends today." Philip and his squad burst into the command citadel's central chamber, weapons up and scanning. The cavernous space was dominated by a colossal galactic holomap, its myriad systems and hyperlanes picked out in lambent light. Beneath it, on a raised dais, pulsed the glowing heart of the Suliban war machine, an orb of roiling crimson energy. "That's the target," Philip said grimly. "We spike that, we cut the head off the snake." They advanced cautiously, picking their way through a labyrinth of dark corridors and annexes, honeycombing the chamber's periphery. Staccato blaster fire and alien war cries echoed from deeper within the citadel. The battle outside was still raging. Suddenly a deep, mocking laugh boomed through the gloom. The humans spun, dropping into combat crouches, as Warlord Zaran himself emerged from the shadows, flanked by a dozen shadow blades. The Suliban tyrant was a towering brute, clad in night-black armor festooned with grisly trophies. His eyes glowed molten behind his death's head helm. "Insects," he sneered. "You scurry and bite, but only hasten your demise." Philip stepped forward, his rifle leveled at Zaran's faceplate. "We're no insects, you son of a bitch. We're human, and we're shutting you down." Zaran threw back his head and laughed, a grating metallic sound. "How many worlds have thought as you do, ape? All lie beneath the Suliban heel." Philip opened fire, plasma bolts screeching through the air. Zaran was already moving, his bodyguards interposing themselves. Blades ignited and blasters flashed as shadow blades and Terrans collided in a whirlwind of deadly steel and burning energy. Lena snap-fired from the hip, stitching a trio of black-armored warriors with searing blue bolts. Smoking holes bloomed in midnight carapaces, and they fell twitching. Bulldog crashed into the shadow blade line like a fusion-powered battering ram, his Ripper combat saw screaming. He ripped and tore with berserker fury, blade and blood spraying. Zaran surged toward Philip, vaulting the sprawled dead. A violet energy glaive flared to life in his fists. Philip juked right, hosing the warlord with autofire. Most shots spattered off the Suliban's armor, but a few bit into the joint below his shoulder, and he staggered, snarling. "Sato, shut this freak show down!" Philip roared, slinging his rifle and drawing a neural-edged katana shimmering with disruptor energy. Akira was already moving, skittering low and fast across the deck towards the containment sphere. A pair of shadow blades peeled off to intercept him, only to catch spinning vibro shurikens spat from the engineer's flicking wrist. The razor discs chewed through their throats in arterial sprays of ichor. Zaran fell on Philip like a descending meteor, his energy glaive a violet blur. Philip danced back, blade twirling, as the sizzling edge hissed past his eyes. The warlord was fast, terrifyingly fast, even for a Suliban. Gene-boosted muscles propelled him into an onslaught of slashes and chops. Philip backpedaled, deflecting and dodging as the chamber strobed with the violent disco of clashing blades. Zaren's glaive drew blood, tracing a line of fire across Philip's cheek. The human spat a curse and countered, his blade snicking out and finding the chink beneath the warlord's arm. The katana sank to the hilt, grating against bone. Zaren bellowed, more outraged than wounded. He bulled into Philip, bearing him to the deck. They grappled, rolling over and over, crushing the dead. The stink of alien blood and scorched meat filled Philip's nostrils as gauntleted fingers sought his throat. He wrenched his arm free and hammered an elbow into the side of Zaren's head. The warlord's helmet cracked like a lobster shell. "Can't he time Akira?" Philip yelled as Zaren reared back, pawing at his splintered faceplate. "Nearly there," the engineer shouted back, fingers flying across his control pad. "The containment sphere is Mobius-locked, quantum-shielded. I need another minute." Philip had no minute to give. Zaren was on him again, glaive humming. The human twisted aside as the deadly edge bit into the deck, drawing sparks. He scythed his legs, knocking Zaren's out from under him. The Suliban crashed down, and Philip was on him in a flash, jamming his katana under the shattered helmet and into the soft flesh of the throat. Philip wrenched his sword free and rolled to his feet, breathing hard. All around the fight still raged. Lena and Bulldog, slick with gore, laid into the remaining shadow blades. "Got it," Akira crowed. "Sphere is breached, cascade imminent." "All units, evac now." The sphere pulsed, rays of blinding light stabbing through rents in its surface. The deck trembled, then bucked, throwing humans and Suliban from their feet. A teeth-rattling boom echoed through the chamber as the war machine's heart ruptured in a geyser of flame. Incandescent tendrils of energy raked the vaulted ceiling, tearing through steel and stone. Philip staggered upright, pulling Lena and Bulldog with him. "Go, go, go!" The deck plates shuddered beneath the team's boots as the sphere's containment field ruptured with a blinding flash. Runnels of light raced along the chamber's circuitry like electric veins. Akira's fingers flew across the control panel, his face lit by the dancing radiance. "Almost there," he shouted over the building whine of overloading power conduits. "Just a few more seconds." Across the cavernous space, Lena and Bulldog grappled with the shadow blades in a whirlwind of flashing steel and sizzling energy. The sniper ducked and wove between the columns, her monomolecular blade carving glittering arcs. The hulking marine bulled into the fray like a freight train, bowling over black-armored foes. At the chamber's heart, Philip and Zaren clashed in a titanic struggle, trading hammer blows. The Suliban warlord was lightning fast, preternaturally strong. But Philip was a Terran Tier 1 operator, engineered to the razor's edge of human potential. He weathered Zaren's onslaught and battled back with equal ferocity. Suddenly the warlord feinted left and struck right, his crackling energy glaive searing across Philip's chest. The human stumbled with a grunt of pain, the acrid stink of charred armor sharp in his nostrils. Zaren seized on the momentary advantage, raining down a flurry of slashes. Philip backpedaled, parrying frantically, as the deadly blade hissed and spat. His heel caught on a jutting deckplate and he fell hard, skull bouncing off the unyielding metal. Stars burst across his vision. Zaren loomed above him, death's head helm leering, glaive raised for a killing stroke. "Pathetic," the warlord sneered. "Is this the best your misbegotten species can offer? You die here, ape, and your homeworld shall burn." Philip blinked away the fog, a snarl tightening his split lips. "Fuck you," he spat. "Earth doesn't bow to tyrants." As Zaren's glaive scythed down, Philip kicked up and out with both feet, catching the Suliban square in the faceplate. Cartilage crunched, and Zaren reeled back with an agonized howl, glaive clattering from his grip. Philip kipped to his feet and launched himself at the warlord, a human missile. He crashed into Zaren in a clash of armor, bearing him to the deck. They rolled across the bucking surface, pummeling, gouging, grappling for purchase. Philip ended up on top, his fingers sinking into Zaren's eye lenses, blunt nails scratching at the gelatinous orbs beneath. The warlord screeched and convulsed, clawing at Philip's face. With a vicious twist, Philip tore the lenses free in a welter of blood and fluid. Zaren spasmed beneath him, shrieking. Philip raised his fist and brought it down like a hammer, pulverizing the Suliban's shattered face into the deck. Again and again he struck, until only pulp remained. Breathing raggedly, the human lurched to his feet, Zaren's limp body slipping from his grasp. He turned to see Akira hunched over the control panel, his face lit by a hellish red glow. The overloading sphere was a miniature sun, bathing the chamber in angry crimson light. "It's done," the engineer yelled. "Cascade imminent. We need to move now." Philip nodded, already in motion. "Bulldog, Kowalski. Break contact and haul ass. Exfil hot." Lena and Bulldog disengaged from the shadow blades and sprinted for the exit, bounding over the dead and dying. The black-armored warriors gave chase, their blades thirsting for blood. Philip and Akira fell in behind their teammates, laying down a withering hail of covering fire. Plasma bolts stitched angry lines across the deck and chewed into Suliban armor. The shadow blades fell back, their advance faltering. "Faster!" Akira urged, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The heat from the overloading sphere was unbearable, scouring their faces like a blast furnace. The deck lurched and heaved, the citadel coming apart at the seams. "Almost there," Philip shouted, the exit looming ahead. "Don't stop, keep moving." Behind them, the sphere exploded with the force of a collapsing star. A wall of blinding white light engulfed the chamber, consuming all in its path. The searing radiance nipped at the team's heels as they lunged through the portal, the blistering heat singeing their armor. The shockwave caught them in mid-air, flinging them into the corridor beyond like discarded rag dolls. Philip hit the far wall hard, the breath blasted from his lungs. He crumpled to the deck, his ears ringing, every nerve screaming. Through swimming vision, he saw Akira, Lena, and Bulldog sprawled nearby, their armor scorched and dented. Emergency lights flickered to life, bathing the humans in pulsing crimson. The deck shivered beneath them, the citadel's death throes shaking it to the very foundations. Philip dragged himself to his feet, his muscles shrieking in protest. He staggered to his team, pulling them up one by one. "On your feet," he snarled, his words slurring through bloody lips. "We are leaving." The Void Ghost frigate pitched and yawed as Philip fought the controls, alarms blaring and sparks spraying from overloaded systems. Lena and Bulldog, their armor scorched and dented, staggered into the cockpit. "Hold on!" Philip roared over the screaming alarms. The frigate rolled and bucked as the shockwave from the command center's detonation slammed into it. Philip's hands flew across the console, diverting power to the inertial dampeners and stabilizers. Slowly, painfully, the ship leveled out, the juddering fading to a teeth-rattling vibration. Philip sagged back in his chair, sweat streaming down his face. He glanced over his shoulder, taking stock of his team. Lena slumped into the co-pilot's seat, her rifle across her knees. Her face was drawn and pale beneath the grime, but her eyes were hard as flint. Akira stumbled into the cockpit, one hand pressed to a blackened scorch mark on his side. His face was tight with pain, but he managed a weak grin. "We did it," he rasped. "The Suliban war machine is finished." Philip nodded grimly, turning back to the viewport. The Suliban city was a roiling sea of fire and destruction, secondary explosions rippling across its surface as the command center's demise triggered a chain reaction of system failures. Plumes of acrid smoke billowed into the sky, blotting out the sun. He keyed the ship-wide comm. "This is Philip Wright to Galactic Council Command. Mission accomplished. Warlord Zaren has been terminated and the Suliban command structure has been neutralized, requesting immediate extraction and medical support." A burst of static, then a voice thick with emotion. "Acknowledged, Philip Wright. The Council, all of galactic civilization, owes you and your team a debt we can never repay. A recovery vessel is en route to your position. Stand by." Philip killed the comm and slumped back, a wave of bone-deep weariness washing over him. It had been a near thing, a desperate gamble against impossible odds, but they had done it. They had struck a blow for all the worlds groaning beneath the Suliban jackboot. He looked around at his team, battered and bloody but unbowed. Humans, one and all, Terran steel and grit. In that moment, despite the exhaustion and the pain, Philip felt a fierce surge of pride. They had shown the galaxy what humanity was made of. They had proven that when the cause was just and the need was great, there was no force in the universe that could stand against the indomitable human spirit. The frigate limped away from the dying city, riding the winds of change. A new era had dawned, one where the Suliban's iron grip was shattered and the galaxy could breathe free once more. And it was all thanks to a handful of humans who had dared to stand against the darkness, no matter the cost. The Void Ghost frigate shuddered violently as a barrage of energy bolts slammed into its aft shields. Sparks sprayed from overloaded relays, smoke billowing through the cramped passages. Philip wrenched the control yoke, sending the ship into a wild corkscrew. "What was that?" Bulldog yelled over the scream of alarms. Lena's eyes widened as she scanned the sensor display. "Suliban battleship, bearing 270, closing fast." Philip swore viciously. "Akira, spin up the hyperdrive. We need to bug out now." The engineer shook his head, face pale. "Drive's down, took a bad hit back there. I'll need time to patch it." "Time we don't have," Philip spat. The Suliban warship loomed on the view screen, plasma batteries stabbing crimson lances at the fleeing humans. "Defensive stations. Bulldog, get on the tail gun and hose those bastards. Lena, reroute O-power to shields." Bulldog bounded to the aft turret, a feral grin stretching his craggy features. "I'll give 'em a red-hot enema." He slapped the gun controls and swung the quad barrels to bear on the pursuer. A steady stream of high-density flechettes sprayed from the muzzles, pocking and scarring the Suliban ship's forward screens. Lena's fingers flew over her console, shunting every spare joule to their overtaxed shield grid. The defensive envelope flared brighter as fresh power surged through the emitters. Shields firming up, but they won't last long under this kind of punishment. Philip danced the ship through a dizzying evasion pattern, the inertial dampeners whining with the strain. Coherent light sizzled past the canopy, near misses that sent static skittering across the hull. Another salvo hammered the Ghost, a panel blowing out behind Philip's head in a shower of glass and plastic. "Akira, talk to me. How's that hyperdrive coming?" Philip called, desperation edging his voice. The engineer had wedged himself into a maintenance crawlway, brackish coolant leaking onto his face as he rewired burnt-out power trunks. "Almost there, Cap. Just a few more connections." The battleship swelled in the aft cameras, filling the screens with its angular bulk. Weapon ports irised open along its bow, the maws of hungry beasts eager to devour. Bulldog poured streams of fire into those yawning apertures, his face sheened with sweat, the gun barrels glowing cherry red. It wasn't enough. Philip wrenched the yoke, standing the Ghost on its tail and presenting the narrowest profile. The Suliban guns erupted, lances of star-core heat impaling the Terran ship through its heart. Consoles exploded, vomiting flame. Klaxons howled like damned souls. Lena clung to her station, blood sheeting down her face from a scalp wound. "Shields are gone," she cried. "Hull breaches across all decks." Philip stared into the maw of oblivion, his mind gone blank and cold. This was it. This was how they died, so far from home, at the hands of the enemy they'd just bloodied. The Suliban ship filled the forward port, blotting out the stars, its next shot already building. "Hyperdrive online," Akira bellowed, triumph and relief etched in equal measure across his face. "Go, go, go!" Philip slammed the activation bar, and the Ghost leapt into the higher dimension. The battleship's last vengeful blast passing harmlessly through the space they'd just vacated. The stars smeared into rainbow lines as they hurtled into the safety of hyperspace. Philip collapsed back into his chair, every muscle gone slack. They'd made it, stared into the face of a god and spat in its eye. Bulldog's whoops of giddy laughter echoed through the ship, Lena joining in with breathless peals of her own. Even Akira, spent and shaking, cracked a weary grin. But Philip couldn't shake the cold certainty coiled in his gut. They'd hurt the Suliban, bled them in their very lair. Such an insult could not, would not, go unanswered. The Terran team had knocked the hornet's nest from the branch and danced on it for good measure. Now the swarm would hunt them to the ends of the universe, thirsting for blood and vengeance. The humans were marked now, with a target squarely between their shoulder blades. There would be no rest, no quarter, no mercy. The war was only beginning. The Void Ghost frigate shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace, the swirling maelstrom of warped space-time snapping back to starlit black. Philip leaned forward in the command chair, his eyes widening as he saw the apocalyptic scene splayed across the main viewport. "Holy shit," Bulldog breathed, his grizzled face slack with stunned disbelief. A ravenous swarm of Suliban ships engulfed the Galactic Council station in seething tides of plasma fire and missile contrails. The massive ring-shaped superstructure shook under the onslaught, great sections of hull plating peeling away to vent gouts of flame and sparking debris into the void. Escape pods sprayed from the station's docking bays like panicked fish fleeing a feeding frenzy. Philip's comm crackled with a sudden desperate transmission. "Philip, thank the stars you're alive." It was Kellar, his insectoid voice reedy with strain and fear. "The Suliban. They launched a surprise attack. We didn't see it coming. They're after the council members, trying to wipe out our leadership in one stroke." Philip's jaw tightened, his augmented mind racing through vectors and firing solutions. "Kellar, listen to me. Get to an escape pod. We'll cover your escape." "No, Philip," Kellar cut in, the sound of rending metal and hissing atmospherics nearly drowning out his words. "You must evacuate the council members. They're the only ones who can hold the galaxy together in the face of this crisis. I'll upload their locations to your ship's computer. You must hurry." Philip hesitated for a bare instant, duty and loyalty warring behind his eyes. Then he gave a sharp, grim nod. "Understood. We won't let you down." "I know you won't," Kellar said, his voice heavy with somber finality. "Kellar out." Philip was already in motion, his fingers flying across the command console. "Lena, get us in there. Bulldog, Akira, give her a path." Lena wrenched the control sticks, sending the Void Ghost into a corkscrewing dive towards the embattled station. The Suliban ships swarmed to meet them, disruptor beams and photon torpedoes stitching the void. The frigate juked and jinked, its ablative armor drinking in the incoming fire, as Lena danced the ship through the chaos. Bulldog whooped with savage glee, his fingers clenched white-knuckled tight on the weapon controls as he rained sheets of answering fire into the Suliban formations. Akira hunched over the sensor displays, his voice tight with coiled tension, as he called out targets and trajectories. "Incoming, bearing 175, missile lock." Lena snap-rolled the ship, narrowly evading a brace of screaming warheads. She whipped the frigate through a dizzying spiral, the inertial compensators whining in protest. Bulldog zeroed in on the offending Suliban craft and raked it with blistering plasma, blowing it apart in a silent fireball. "Philip, I have the council member coordinates," Akira called out. "Feeding them to your station now." A trio of glowing blue dots appeared on the tactical holo, blinking urgently amidst the swirling melee. Philip's eyes flicked from point to point, his mind whirring as he computed intercept courses and extraction protocols. "Got it," he said, his voice diamond-hard with resolve. "Lena, come about to heading 039er. That's our first pickup." The Void Ghost knifed through the battle, its hull shuddering as it shrugged off the Suliban onslaught. It hurtled toward the nearest escape pod beacon, the small ovoid shape growing larger in the forward viewports. Philip activated the docking clamps, his fingers flying over the controls. The frigate matched velocity with the spinning pod, then latched on with a dull clang that reverberated through the hull. The airlock cycled open, and Philip was already out of his chair and moving. He charged down the umbilical with Bulldog on his heels, weapons at the ready. The hatch hissed open, revealing a cluster of terrified alien dignitaries huddled in the cramped confines of the escape pod. "Galactic Council, this is Terran Special Forces. We're here to evacuate you," Philip barked, his voice steady and commanding. "Move it, people. Go, go, go." The council members stumbled out of the pod, some bleeding from wounds, others blank with shock. Philip and Bulldog herded them into the frigate, tossing terse words of encouragement. "One down," Philip said as the last of the dignitaries staggered through the airlock. 2 to go. And so it went, the Void Ghost plunging through the roiling inferno of the battle to snatch the council members from the jaws of death. Lena flew like a woman possessed, wrenching the ship through maneuvers that would snap the spine of a lesser pilot. Bulldog and Akira manned the guns with grim focus, their fire lancing out to reap a bloody toll on the Suliban attackers. The frigate's cargo bay filled with shell-shocked aliens from a score of worlds, united in their terror and their gratitude to the humans who had delivered them from certain doom. At last, the final beacon winked out on the TAC display, the last councillor safe aboard. Philip sagged back into the command chair, his armor slick with sweat and his heart jackhammering behind his ribs. He looked to the main viewport, where the Galactic Council station hung in tatters, a gutted shell spilling fire and corpses into the pitiless void. There was no sign of Kalar's escape pod among the drifting wreckage. A cold fist closed around Philip's heart as he realized the brave insectoid had likely met his end on that doomed station, sacrificing himself so that others might live. "Get us out of here, Lena," Philip said hoarsely. "Maximum burn. Engage the cloak." The Void Ghost's engines flared white-hot, and the ship leapt forward, the ravaged battlefield dwindling to a moat behind them. The cloaking field shimmered to life, swaddling the frigate in a cocoon of distorted space-time. Philip reached for the ship-wide comm, his finger trembling slightly as he keyed the channel open. He looked to Bulldog, Akira, and Lena, seeing his own exhaustion and sorrow mirrored in their faces. "We struck a blow against the Suliban today," he said, his voice heavy with the weight of the moment. "But the war is far from over. They've shown that they're willing to go to any lengths to seize control of the galaxy. But we've also shown that we're willing to fight for what's right, no matter the cost. The council members we rescued today will be key to rallying the other species against the Suliban threat. And we'll be there, leading the charge, showing the galaxy what humanity is capable of. Because if there's one thing we've learned today, it's that when the chips are down, you can always count on humans to answer the call." Philip let his finger slip from the comm, and silence filled the cockpit. The Void Ghost knifed through the endless expanse, bearing its precious cargo to the secret rallying point, far beyond the Suliban's reach. The battle had been won, but the war stretched before them, a yawning abyss filled with fire and blood and sacrifice. But Philip and his team would be ready. They were Terran to the core, indomitable and unbreakable. And they would fight to their last breath to keep the dream of galactic freedom alive. As the Void Ghost frigate touched down at the secret rally point, Philip and his team were greeted by a raucous chorus of cheers and applause. Warriors from 100 worlds, some humanoid, some utterly alien, all united in their gratitude and admiration for the human heroes who had snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. The rescued council members, still shaken from their harrowing ordeal, stepped forward to offer their personal thanks. The avian Zephyrian ambassador bowed low, his iridescent feathers shimmering. "Philip Wright, your bravery and skill have saved not only our lives, but the very future of the Galactic Council. We are forever in your debt." Philip nodded humbly, his team standing tall beside him. "We only did what needed to be done, what any human would have done in our place." But even as the accolades poured in, a palpable tension hung in the air. The Suliban attack had been devastating, both in lives lost and the blow to the Council's prestige. Hushed conversations spoke of fleets mobilizing, of fragile alliances fracturing under the strain. Suddenly a sleek scout ship burst into the hangar, its hull scored by energy blasts. The pilot, a lanky Arcturian, leapt from the cockpit before the craft had fully settled. "Grave news!" he cried, his voice cracking with urgency. "The Suliban have a new warlord, one even more ruthless than Zaran, Zarok the Unconquered, they call him." A ripple of unease spread through the gathered throng. Philip stepped forward, his brow furrowed. "What do we know about this Zarok?" The Arcturian shook his head grimly. "Only that he has vowed to finish what Zaran started, to crush the humans who humiliated the Suliban and grind the Council beneath his heel." A heavy silence descended, the weight of this new threat settling like a shroud. Then a voice rang out, the elderly Altarian counselor, her robes of office billowing. "Philip Wright, you and your team have proven yourselves the galaxy's staunchest defenders. We have no right to ask more of you, but these are desperate times." Philip met her gaze steadily, his jaw set. "We're listening." The counselor took a deep breath. "We need you to undertake a mission of utmost secrecy and danger, to infiltrate Zarok's flagship and eliminate him before he can consolidate his power. It is a desperate gambit, but one that could buy us the time we need to rally our forces and launch a counterattack." Philip glanced at his team, seeing the resolve etched in their faces. They had been through hell together, forged bonds stronger than any metal. He turned back to the counselor, his voice unwavering. "We accept." As the team prepared their gear, checking weapons and armor with practiced efficiency, Philip took a moment to pull them aside. "I won't lie to you. This mission, it's not going to be like anything we've faced before. We'll be alone out there, cut off from support." Bulldog cracked a grin, slapping a power cell into his rifle. "Ain't nothing new about that, boss. We've always had each other's backs." Lena nodded, her eyes flint hard. "Damn straight, the Suliban want to dance? We'll give them a waltz they won't soon forget." Philip clasped each of their shoulders in turn, his throat tight with emotion. "I could not ask for a finer crew, a truer family. Whatever happens out there, I want you to know it's been an honor." With final farewells, the team boarded their stealth frigate and rocketed into the void, the stars blurring into streaks of light as they set course for the very heart of the Suliban war machine. They all knew the odds of survival were slim, but they were Terrans and they would not shy from the fight. Not when the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. The infiltration of Zarok's flagship was a nightmare of twisting corridors and relentless enemy fire. Philip led the way, his plasma rifle spitting blue-white bolts of searing energy. Suliban warriors fell before their advance, but always more came, a seeming inexhaustible horde. "Akira, we need a path to the bridge," Philip shouted over the din of battle. The engineer, his face streaked with sweat and grime, consulted his wrist display. "Working on it, boss. This ship's layout is a damn maze." Lena dropped to one knee, her sniper rifle cracking as she sent a high-caliber round through the eye socket of a charging Suliban berserker. "Better figure it out fast. We're getting swamped here." Bulldog laughed maniacally as he hosed the corridor with plasma fire, the superheated bolts liquefying alien flesh and slagging bulkheads. "I can do this all day, you scaly bastards!" But even their skill and fury could only carry them so far. One by one the team fell, worn down by sheer numbers and the relentless press of the Suliban assault. Akira was the first to go down, a lucky shot punching through his armor and painting the corridor with his blood. Lena was next, a plasma grenade detonating in her face, leaving only a charred ruin. Bulldog, roaring his defiance, went down under a tide of slashing claws and stabbing blades, his massive frame shuddering as he was carved apart. And then it was only Philip, alone and bleeding, standing on a carpet of Suliban dead. He limped onto the bridge, his armor sparking and smouldering. There, waiting for him, was Zarok the Unconquered, a towering figure clad in midnight black battle plate. The warlord's eyes glowed crimson as he hefted a massive war hammer crackling with disruptor energy. "So this is the human who has caused me so much trouble," Zarok rumbled, his voice like grinding stone. "I will enjoy crushing you and mounting your bones on my throne." Philip raised his rifle, his vision blurring from blood loss and fatigue. "Not today, you bastard." They clashed in a storm of slashing energy and thundering blows. Zarok was immensely strong, his every strike shaking Philip to his core, but the human would not yield, would not break. He fought with the desperate fury of a man who knows his end is near, but is determined to make it count. In a final desperate gambit, Philip tackled Zarok, bearing him to the deck. The warlord's hammer skidded away, and the two grappled in a tangle of straining limbs and shattering armor. Philip's hand found the override panel on the ship's reactor core. He slammed his fist into it again and again, even as Zarok's claws tore into his flesh. A computer voice blared in warning. "Core containment failing, detonation imminent." Xeroc's eyes widened in sudden understanding and fear. What have you done? Philip smiled through bloody teeth. Ended you? The flagship vanished in a blinding flash of light, a miniature sun blooming in the void. The shockwave ripped through the Suliban fleet, scattering ships like leaves before a hurricane. On the bridge of the Council's flagship, the assembled leaders watched in stunned silence as their sensors registered the destruction of the enemy command ship and the sudden disarray of the Suliban forces. The Altarian councillor bowed her head, her eyes glistening. They did it. The humans bought us the time we needed, at the cost of their own lives. In the years that followed, statues of Philip and his team were raised on 100 worlds, their likenesses carved from marble and steel, so that future generations might know the faces of the heroes who saved the galaxy. But for those who had known them, who had fought beside them and bled with them, the loss was a wound that would never fully heal. They had been more than heroes, more than soldiers. They had been friends, brothers and sisters in arms. The galaxy would go on. The Council would rebuild and new alliances would be forged. But it would do so in the long shadow cast by the sacrifice of 4 humans who had given everything to defend a galaxy that was not their own. Their names would echo through the ages, a testament to the unyielding spirit of humanity. In the face of impossible odds, they had stood fast, had fought not for glory or riches, but for the simple, unshakable belief that all sentient beings had the right to live free from tyranny and fear. And in the end, that belief had proven stronger than any weapon, more enduring than any empire. It was the flame that would light the way forward, the beacon that would guide the galaxy into a brighter tomorrow. The legend of Philip Wright and his band of human heroes would never die, for it was a legend forged in the unbreakable metal of sacrifice, courage, and the indomitable human will. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.